August 21st, 1969. Dawn breaks over Jerusalem's old city. At 7 a.m., Palestinian guards arrive at the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound, the third holiest site in Islam, built on the Temple Mount, where Islamic tradition holds the Prophet Muhammad ascended to heaven during the night journey. The guards notice smoke rising from the southeastern wing. They rush inside and discover flames consuming the Qibli prayer hall. Within minutes, fire engulfs 400 square meters of ornate ceiling. The 1,200-year-old wooden minbar, the pulpit of Saladin, installed after the liberation of Jerusalem from Crusaders in 1187, is burning. Marble pillars crack from heat. The ornamental mosaic dome blackens. Muslim and Christian residents rush toward the mosque carrying buckets and hoses, desperate to save the sanctuary. But Israeli forces block entry. They claim security concerns. Witnesses later testify that crowds were prevented from helping extinguish flames during the critical first hour. By the time firefighters finally enter, irreplaceable Islamic heritage is ash. The fire burns for 3 hours. When smoke clears, Muslims worldwide demand answers. How did this happen? Who is responsible? And why did rescue come too late? 2 days later, Israeli police arrest Denis Michael Rohan, a 28-year-old Australian tourist. Under interrogation, Rohan confesses immediately. He set the fire. He poured kerosene-soaked scarves beneath Saladin's minbar, lit them, and fled. He shows no remorse. Rohan explains he acted on divine instruction. He'd read passages from the book of Zechariah. Behold the man whose name is the branch, for he shall grow up in his place, and he shall build the temple of the Lord. Rohan believed he was the branch, destined to clear the Temple Mount for Jewish reconstruction of Solomon's temple. Burning Al-Aqsa would hasten Christ's second coming. The logic is delusional. Rohan is Christian, not Jewish. He subscribes to the Plain Truth magazine published by Herbert W. Armstrong's Worldwide Church of God, which teaches end times prophecy requiring temple reconstruction. But Rohan's theology is confused. He mistakenly believes Al-Aqsa occupies the temple site when in fact the Dome of the Rock does. He burned the wrong building. Israeli authorities emphasize Rohan's mental illness. Psychiatric evaluations determine he suffers from severe schizophrenia. He hears voices. He believes he's descended from King David and related to the Queen of England. He claims God promised to make him King of Jerusalem. During trial, judges rule Rohan legally insane and not responsible for his actions. In 1971, he's committed to a mental institution. In 1974, Israeli authorities deport him to Australia on humanitarian grounds for psychiatric treatment near his family. He's transferred to Callan Park Hospital near Sydney, where he lives quietly until his death in 2013. The case seems closed. One mentally ill individual acting alone, an isolated incident. But across the Muslim world, many reject this explanation. They see conspiracy, not insanity, coordination, not random violence, Israeli complicity, not mental illness. The skepticism has roots in observable facts. How did Rohan, a tourist who'd only arrived in Israel months earlier, gain such easy access to Al-Aqsa at 7 a.m. when tourists are normally prohibited? Mosque guards later testify Rohan had visited multiple times in preceding weeks, becoming so familiar that security grew lax. One guard admits accepting drinking money from Rohan that morning in exchange for entry. But deeper questions persist. Why did Israeli police block civilians from fighting the fire during the crucial first hour? Why were metal detectors and modern firefighting equipment not deployed faster? Why did it take 3 hours to extinguish flames in a stone building? The Israeli government's Commission of Inquiry headed by District Court President Moshe Etzioni, concludes the arson was committed by one man acting alone. Security procedures by the Islamic Waqf, the Muslim trust administering the site, were inadequate. Israeli firefighters risked their lives fighting flames while being pelted with stones by Palestinian crowds who believed they were dousing fires with gasoline instead of water. The UN Security Council sees it differently. On September 15, 1969, Resolution 271 passes 11-0 with 4 abstentions. It condemns Israel for failing to protect Jerusalem's holy sites, calls the arson an execrable act of desecration and profanation, and demands Israel comply with Geneva Conventions regarding occupied territories. The resolution emphasizes that East Jerusalem, captured by Israel in the 1967 Six-Day War, remains occupied territory under international law. Israel's responsibility for protecting religious sites during occupation includes Al-Aqsa. The fire occurred on Israel's watch. Whether or not authorities actively participated, they failed to prevent it. For many Muslims, Israel's rapid deportation of Rohan in 1974 raises suspicions. If he was truly the sole culprit, why release him so quickly? Critics argue it prevented full investigation into possible Israeli involvement. The immediate aftermath is explosive. Demonstrations erupt across the Muslim world. In Jerusalem, general strikes shut down Palestinian businesses for days. Protests spread to the West Bank, Jordan, Egypt, Syria, Lebanon. Riots occur as far away as Kashmir. The fire becomes a rallying point. For 2 years since the 1967 war, Muslims watched Israel control their third holiest site with simmering resentment. The arson transforms anger into action. King Faisal of Saudi Arabia hosts an Islamic summit in Rabat, Morocco, in September 1969, the first major gathering of Muslim leaders in decades. The summit establishes the Organisation of Islamic Cooperation, which still exists today as the second-largest intergovernmental organization after the UN. Al-Aqsa's burning literally created modern Islamic political unity. The fire that destroyed Saladin's pulpit forged new alliances. Reconstruction takes years and millions of dollars. Jordan, which held custodianship of Islamic holy sites in Jerusalem before 1967, and retained that role after, funds restoration. Craftsmen from across the Muslim world painstakingly rebuild Saladin's minbar using medieval techniques. The work isn't completed until 2007, 38 years after the fire. The new minbar is carved from ivory and inlaid with precious woods, attempting to recreate the masterpiece that Saladin's artisans built 8 centuries earlier. But something irreplaceable is lost. The original minbar survived crusades, Mongol invasions, Ottoman rule, British colonialism. It withstood 800 years only to burn in 3 hours. Future generations will study photographs and descriptions, but never touch wood carved by 12th century hands. That direct connection to Islamic history, burned by a delusional tourist who thought he was helping God, is gone forever. The political ramifications echo across decades. Palestinian leaders invoke the fire repeatedly. Yasser Arafat referenced it in speeches, calling it evidence of systematic threats to Muslim holy sites. When Israeli authorities installed metal detectors at Al-Aqsa in 2017, following a shooting, protesters compared it to 1969, another violation of the mosque's sanctity. In 2022, when Jewish groups advocated for increased access to the Temple Mount for prayer, Muslim authorities cited the 1969 fire as proof that such access leads to destruction. Whether fair or not, Rohan's arson established a precedent. It proved Al-Aqsa was vulnerable. It demonstrated that extremists, regardless of religion, might attack the site. It justified heightened security, increased Waqf control, and Muslim resistance to any changes in Temple Mount access or administration. The conspiracy theories persist. Despite overwhelming evidence that Rohan acted alone, segments of Palestinian and broader Arab media continue claiming Jewish involvement. Palestinian Authority television and Hamas statements sometimes describe Rohan as a Jewish extremist, despite his clear Christian identity and Church of God membership. Some reports claim senior Jews of high position planned the attack. Others minimize Rohan's role entirely, asserting Israeli forces were primarily responsible. The Anti-Defamation League and other organizations document these misrepresentations, noting they inflame tensions and perpetuate anti-Semitism. The facts are clear. Denis Michael Rohan was Christian, mentally ill, acted alone, and was convicted and institutionalized by Israeli courts. But in the Middle East's toxic political environment, facts often lose to narratives that serve current agendas. August 21st remains a day of mourning in the Muslim world. Commemorations occur annually. Yellow ribbons appear in solidarity with Al-Aqsa. Protests, vigils, and speeches remind new generations of the day their sacred mosque burned. For many Muslims, the fire represents not just physical damage, but spiritual violation, an attack on Islamic identity by forces seeking to erase Muslim presence from Jerusalem. For others, it's a reminder of vulnerability, a warning that Al-Aqsa faces ongoing threats from extremists of all backgrounds. 55 years later, the mosque stands restored but scarred. The flames that consumed Saladin's pulpit in 1969 ignited outrage that still burns. Denis Michael Rohan wanted to hasten the Messiah's return. Instead, he deepened centuries-old conflicts and created new grievances that outlived him by decades. One mentally ill man with matches and kerosene changed Middle Eastern politics. A sacred mosque set on fire became a symbol of occupation, resistance, and unhealed wounds. Faith ignited outrage, and the world is still dealing with the ashes.